Hello and welcome back to another YouTube video. Today I'm going to be updating my solo queue top lane tier list for patch 13.10. So this was the big mid-season patch and a lot of things have changed. However, in the top lane, not a lot of champions have really adjusted in placement. A lot of them have gotten stronger with things like Stride Breaker, Triforce, Gore Drinker being buffed. Some of them can be abused Youmu's quite well. A couple of tank items have been nerfed and a couple of champions have had ratios added onto them. To begin with, there was a hotfix on this patch, buffing Kindred and both Yone and Yasuo, and Yone is really benefiting from these. Yone is doing really well at the moment. If you go Gale Force on Yone, he is a really strong champion. He is possibly even an S tier champion at the moment. Yasuo's not finding the same amount of success, but Yasuo can also move up into the B tier. Both of these champs are doing better than before the patch because the items are just people are getting used to building the correct items on them. People are often opting into static shift fast. The way to go is Gale Force, and hopefully that now increases their win rate, and maybe they'll get nerfed down to a more balanced point, but both of them performing quite well at the moment. Riven is also going to move up, a really strong abuser of Youmu's at the moment. If you go Youmu's second, she is probably one of the strongest champions in the game at the moment. If it's something like Ravenous into Youmu's does really well, has a really high win rate. This can also be because she snowballs quite well as a champion. High AD ratios really benefits from lethality. Riven is a really strong champion. Definitely recommend picking her up. Cassiopeia, benefiting into a lot of what's strong at the moment in top. Still a really good abuser of Roa and Seraphs. Just moving our upper tier. Performing quite well. Silas, I'm actually just going to move up a tier as well. Silas in general is just performing better than he usually does in the top lane. He's usually just used as a counter pick into Malphite, but as he's being played a bit more in general, I will move him up a tier. Akali, going to move her up into the C tier and just remove Viego entirely. Akali's just not D tier standard. She's still not great. I wouldn't really recommend playing Akali. She can struggle killing a lot of the top lane, but as it's mostly one tricks and people who have a lot of skill on the champion playing her in the top lane, she's performing quite well for those who do pick her up. Who do play her in that regard. Trundle, performing quite well at the moment. I'm going to move him up to the A tier. If you go Triforce into Ravenous into Hullbreaker, he does really well. You want to be running Trundle as a split push champion. I'm seeing a lot of people go like Divine Sundra and Bork. He benefits a lot more from Ravenous and Triforce. Definitely try and change the build around, and he's performing quite well with that. Yorick is also a champion who's performing quite well at the moment. Triforce being buffed, Hullbreaker being buffed, plus a lot of people have picked up onto the fact that lethality Yorick is doing really well at the moment. Overall, just doing quite well for Yorick. He can be considered an A tier champion, but I'm going to leave him in B tier as there is still a large amount of people itemizing him incorrectly. Vayne is performing not as great as she should be. Her Bork win rate isn't as high as pre-patch, but that is a lot of just itemization problems. If people itemize Vayne correctly, she can still stay in the B tier. She works quite nicely into a lot of what the top meta is at the moment. Things like Ornn, she beats quite comfortably if you space correctly. Ornn can find angles where he can kill her, but if you're running, Ornn has to run things like an Arcane Comet setup, whereas Vayne can just abuse laning phase with her ability to kite if you're running things like Flash Ghost. But just be careful of Ornn all in. Still performs quite well in the match though. Sion is another champion she does quite well into. If you space a Darius correctly, you can perform quite well into the Darius matchup. Of course, there are circumstances where these champions can do a bit better with rune optimization, but there are ways around that. Other champions include Ornn, who I'm actually just going to move down. He got bug fixed this patch. His E and R were knocking up for longer than intended. That combined with the magic resist items being nerfed ever so slightly, I'm just going to drop him down a tier. He's still really strong. I definitely recommend picking him if you enjoy playing a supportive tank for your team. He does a lot of damage as well. Definitely consider still picking Ornn, but he fits in quite nicely with a lot of the S tier. A lot of these champs can be considered Z tier, but for the most part, there's so many of them that I'm going to leave them all in the S tier at the moment. Another champ which is not performing as well at the moment is Singed. Singed kind of struggling with a lot of the top laners getting stronger. Same goes for Rumble. Both these champions just aren't performing to the same level as they used to. Other champions I do want to talk about. Nah performing a lot better with Triforce at the moment. He was already going Triforce as a core, but as Triforce Sterks and Hullbreaker to a degree. If you're going Hullbreaker now, I wouldn't recommend going Hullbreaker now. He does perform quite well with things like Wit and Cleaver. But yeah, if you go Hullbreaker now, yeah, all these items have been buffed for him. He's doing a lot better. Rammus, still pretty strong in spots where he works. So definitely consider picking Rammus into AD matchups, especially ones where you can abuse Warden's Mail and Bramble value. Volibear, doing a bit better with his buffs a couple patches ago, but still not performing to the same level that I would want him to push him up a tier. Lilia, not really seeing a lot of play, almost considered removing her from the tier list in general. Other champs, Renekton, Prowler's being removed really hurt him, so I'm just going to leave him in the C tier for the moment. I'm pretty sure you do have to go Gore Drinker, but I've got to quickly check if other lethality options do have a place. So Gore Drinker is currently his most played. It's not performing particularly well. He's struggling quite a lot with it. Eclipse and Yomu's are also not performing to a high level, so I definitely avoid playing Renekton this patch. He will probably get buffed in patches to come. Sejuani, still struggling with the fact that she doesn't particularly like any of the mythic items as much as like old Sunfires and old Frostfire. She can of course still go Radiant and Heart still synergizing with her W quite well. Cassante, quite a hard champion to pilot. A lot of people not performing to a good level on him, so just going to leave him in C tier at the moment. There is a chance he could even move down to the D tier. For what time you can put into Cassante, you can get a lot more value out of a lot of the champs higher up in the tier list. Karma also left her on C tier. I was hoping she'd do a lot better with Echoes of Helia, but still not performing to a particularly high level. Rise, not performing since he got nerfed not too long ago. Roa, I'm pretty sure is still the way to go there. Udyr, Demonics into Jaxo, I'm pretty sure is his like core, but even then that's not performing to a particularly high level, so I'd also avoid Udyr for the moment. Yorick, yeah, like I spoke about, got nice buffs with a lot of the items. Vayne, not performing to the same level as she should be. Silas, better doing a lot better. Yasuo, yeah, itemization problems. Aatrox, I'm pretty sure he's doing a lot better with Eclipse at the moment, but there are things like the Triforce build, which I really like. I definitely recommend trying the Triforce build. You might find a lot of success with it. It's if you go Ravenous, Triforce into Hullbreaker, this build is really strong. Yeah, definitely consider going this build. It's actually really underplayed at the moment, and this build was really strong pre-patch as well. He's also a really strong abuser of things like Shrouders. So yeah, Aatrox can almost be considered an S tier champ if you itemize him correctly. Kennen, I would recommend staying away from Kennen. Exhaust counters this champ quite a lot, and unless you're getting good advantages in laning phase, he also doesn't perform to the same level as a lot of other champions at the moment. Azir is kind of my sleeper OP pick, which isn't played a lot at the moment. I definitely recommend trying Azir at least once or twice. He is a very hard champ to pilot, so if you're not finding early success, it might be good to avoid him. But if you do, he's really strong in the top lane at the moment. He can bleed out a lot of top laners. He has strong itemization. Like hybrid tank builds you can try on Azir. Teemo, also, he's not a bad champ at the moment. He does win into a couple of the meta picks. He beats Camille, for example. Just the itemization isn't too strong. If Riftmaker was slightly better, then we'd definitely see that a lot more. But Teemo's one of those champs you can itemize how you enjoy playing the champ. Things like Riftmaker and Liandry's both work. Of course, if you're going like Liandry's, you tend to go build more towards your shrooms. Things like Demonics and Dark Harvest have a lot of value with that. But if you're going like the Nashers, Zerkers, Riftmaker can really benefit that. PTA, even Lethal Tempo I've seen some games. Gragas, very hard champ to pull off. It's kind of dragging his win rate down, but if you can play Gragas, he does have a really strong laning phase. He can bully out a lot of champs, and he's a really strong neutralizer. Yeah, other champs. Kayle, I've left her in S tier. She does have the same itemization as last patch with like the Nashers, the Riftmaker, Rabadon's being buffed this patch, Lichbane. There are itemization options there. A lot of people have been going Ginsu's on her. There might be some good Ginsu's variants, but as people narrow down the options, we will start really seeing them come through. But for the moment, it does get outperformed by Riftmaker. Akshan, people are very much itemizing him correctly. I'm pretty sure the crit, Collector, IE, RFC, Stormrazor, BT, and like options like that, and ODR, all really good for Akshan at the moment. Definitely consider building him in that way. And I think to round this out, Rengar is one of the top performers at the moment in both jungle and top. He will very much get nerfed next patch. If you put the time into play Rengar, and you've put time into play Rengar, I definitely recommend playing this champion. He is very strong at the moment. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. That's a slight bit of a talk towards the end about some of the champs and the thoughts there. If you'd like to see more, comment down below. And yeah, see you.